He's gone from homelessness, living in a car, to now handling the financial portfolios of many of the top billionaires running the world's biggest, most influential companies. The #1 best-selling author of Financial Secrets from Stanford's Hoover Tower. Please welcome Gary Sipos.
So Mrs. Feuder, she was my kindergarten teacher. And there's a direct connection between my kindergarten teacher and my company being listed on the NASDAQ. So think back way back to when you were a kindergartner. And for me, there was about 25 students in my class. And every day at 10:30 a.m., right on the button, Mrs. Feuder would take her hand and put it on the desk, and she would say, "Recess!" And we'd all get up with glee and file out the door like a herd of turtles and spill out onto the playground and play teeter-totter and Foursquare and tag you're it and all those fun games. But every once in a while, probably once every 3 or maybe even 4 weeks, Mrs. Feuder, she would say, "Recess," and before I could get to the door though, she'd say, "Hey, you Gary, come here, sit down." And so I'd sit down next to Mrs. Feuder, and she'd say, "We're gonna read a book together." And so she'd give me a book, and I would open it up, and I'd probably get through the first page, and by the end of the first page, she'd say, "Hey, Gary, would you like to share a sandwich?" And my eyes would get big, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'd love to have a sandwich right now." So she'd open up her little metal box, her lunch box, and she'd pull out a half a sandwich, and she'd give me, her sandwich. And so I'd be, and she'd grab the book, and I'd be sitting there chomping away. Oh, it was so good. And then she would start reading. And because the reason why was, my family was sort of poor. And we were so poor that about once every 3 or 4 weeks, didn't even have breakfast, in the morning. So my mother, she would give me a glass of water, and I could tell that she felt really bad about it. And then she'd send me off to kindergarten. And for some reason, Mrs. Feuder, she could figure that out. It's probably because I was sitting in the front row, holding my stomach going, "Oh," or something. I have no idea. But she figured it out. What a kind lady. And during those sessions when we were reading, every once in a while, I would ask her questions and say, "Mrs. Feuder, we're sort of poor." And she'd say, "Yeah, Gary, I know you're poor." And then I would say, "Mrs. Feuder, what can I do? What can I do to help my family, to be, not be so poor?" And she put down the book, thought for a while and paused. And then she finally said, "Gary, you're a really good student. And for the next many years, you should continue to do that. Study hard. And one of these days, you too will be able to help your family. And you won't, your family won't be poor anymore." And so I took that to heart. And throughout my, career in grade school and high school and college, I applied myself. I had fun too. I played basketball and football and baseball and had a great time, but I always applied myself to my studies. When I was a freshman in college, that was the last time my father and I had to sleep in his car. And that was a great day because when I was a sophomore, I was able to earn enough money to move in a house with 5 other guys. And I'll tell you, living with 6 guys and college guys in a house, that's not something I recommend, but it was good for me. And then after college, I moved to Silicon Valley, and it was wonderful because I was finally able to send money home to my parents. And so I urge all of you to every single day, my fellow executives, how hard it is, how driving it is to create a company and to have it listed on the NASDAQ. And so I urge all of you to every single day reflect and have gratitude, for your health and for your family and for the people that have helped you in the past. On that rung of ladder of success, I want you to look down and pull them up. Because one day, that little kid that you give some encouragement to could be the kid that also creates a company that's listed on the NASDAQ.
Yes.
I made it.